So, a few months back, I posted um, my full interviews that I did as part of my Newcastle University Master's degree in media and journalism. These interviews covered different forms of the film industry. So I did Sunderland Shorts Film Festival. I did conversations with filmmakers themselves. And then I did the Hexham Forum Cinema. I did a profile piece of their cinema. Um, and ever since then, I've known I wanted to get back to doing more things on this channel, utilizing it to essentially put my opinion out there, but also to interview people and to discuss different aspects of film news, as well as analysis, whether that be essays, podcasts, just random news pieces, whatever it is. Um, for the past 3 4 months, I've been doing my dissertation, so I haven't had any time to do that. And I plan on this being the first instance of me getting back to doing these audio discussions about film. Um, I'm starting off fairly easy. I don't want to jump into, you know, any of the ideas that I have without first just starting off light, doing something that I know. So I'm gonna do a review of Alien Romulus today, which I've just seen this week. It's been out for about 3 weeks now, but I haven't had a chance to see it until a couple of days ago. And I spent the last couple of days just writing up notes on what I think of the film. And then once I find my footing, I'm gonna hopefully get some interviews going, and then do some news pieces, some box office pieces, that sort of thing. But I've done reviews before, even if they've been written, so I know how to do this. Um, so I decided I was going to start off by doing this because it's what I know best, and from there, hopefully, I'll find more things that I can do. Um, this isn't, I don't want this to be film critic like straight and narrow, like I just tell you my thoughts and like that's it, like we're disconnected. I want this to be that like this is like a, where I can put part of my personality onto the internet. I can feel like I have the freedom to actually discuss what I think. It's not just straight and narrow, like no jokes, no swearing, nothing like that. I want this to be quite free form, but in the beginning I might struggle to manufacture that sort of process. I might say the complete wrong thing. I might say something that is controversially incorrect. I might say something that isn't 100% accurate. But I'm just hoping that over time I'll learn to correct those mistakes. I'll learn how to say things with more accuracy. I'll learn how to present a show better. And ultimately, I hope that I'm able to get more people on here to help me out, whether that be editing, hosting, researching, um, just debate and discussion, whatever it is. Um, but for now, it is pretty much just me. And then, so I'm just gonna talk about film, and if it takes off, it takes off. If not, then this is my own personal space, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Because I enjoy this, and I want to talk about it because I feel like I have a lot of thoughts that I'd like to discuss. But that's admin out of the way. So essentially, with this review, I'm gonna start with an introduction. I'm gonna introduce what the film is, how it's done at the box office, who it casts, and then I'm gonna go into my thoughts. And again, I don't want this to be like a film review in a newspaper. So it's not. I'm not confined by time and space here. I can go as long as I want. So if I go for 10 minutes, I go for 10 minutes. If I go for half an hour, then I go for half an hour. It's really not that big of a deal to me. Um, because that's what YouTube is for. That's what podcast services are for. Is that I can just go as long as I need to, as I want to, and then if it needs to be cut down, it can be cut down. If I need to add stuff to it, I can add stuff to it. This isn't BBC News where it needs to be within 2 minutes. I didn't like that at my university course, so I'm not going to do that here. Um, but anyways, Alien Romulus is a film about a chaotic group of colonizers seeking out a desolate space station called the Renaissance in hope of finding resources to escape their slave labor planet Jackson. However, upon arriving in the station, they discovered the true purpose of the station: alien research. Alien Romulus is the seventh installment in the Alien franchise, set between Ridley Scott's original Alien and James Cameron's sequel, Aliens. The film, as described by director Fede Alvarez, seeks to bridge the gap between the prequels Prometheus and Alien Covenant and the Ripley timeline, those being Alien Aliens, Aliens 3, Aliens Resurrection. It has released to critical and commercial success with the worldwide box office at $288 million worldwide as of writing on the 4th of September. It stars Kaylee Spenny, most recently a lead character in Alex Garland's Civil War, and the titular character in Sofia Coppola's Priscilla. David Johnson, most well known from Rye Lane, Isabella McCad, and Archie Renault. So, given that I've just gone through who the cast is there, I think it makes sense to just start with the cast and their relationships and how they did in the film. So, I think overall this cast did really well. I think that the script that they worked with really wasn't the greatest. I don't think they're given a lot of character development. I don't think they're fleshed out very well. Um, and I think part of that is deliberate. I think there's moments in the film where you're meant to infer a lot of feeling or discussion between two characters just between how they look at each other rather than them saying something. And I do like that, but also it does feel a lot of the time like the strength of their performances is relying on them as actors rather than the script giving them the correct dialogue or enough dialogue to really uh, uh, put across their feelings and how they're dealing with this situation that they're in. But given the strength of this cast, I'm not entirely surprised that they've got good relationships, and I'm not entirely surprised that they came across very well. I think Kaylee Spenny is going to be a major star in Hollywood if she wants it. I think how big she wants to be will be as big as she wants. Oh, sorry. I think she will be as big in Hollywood as she wants to be after the year that she's put out. Starting with Priscilla at the what was it? Was it the autumn of last year? I think she's put out stellar performance on stellar performance. I think she's done really well. Priscilla, she came across as this, meek young girl, teenager into this young woman who was very much finding her place in the world, but was dominated by these forces in this industry and in this relationship that she just could not hold her own. She couldn't get a foothold in this relationship and in this world. And she plays her very well as this girl who just cannot escape this domineering force over her. Um, and she does that very well. And then in Civil War, you kind of see her moving away from that a bit. Of she's a character who is still scared. She's not in a stable relation. She's not in a stable situation. She's in a very chaotic situation where her life is constantly on edge, on the edge of death. But despite that, she perseveres and she keeps moving forward. She wants to be involved in this scene. Um, so the character that she plays is, I would say she steals the show. You've got Kirsten Dunst and Wagner Moura in that film, and Jesse Plemons, and I think she's the best actress or the best actor in that film, and that's really high praise for an actress whose most well-known thing before this was Pacific Rim Uprising, which, you know, no disrespect to Pacific Rim, but that's not the highest quality film out there. So those are two films that she's been in so far where you're like, wow, she could be a good actor. And then in Alien, she's gone from Priscilla, which is this feminist, not a major box office film, but it's this feminist independent film where you're seeing a very prominent 20th century female figure who is important to a lot of people, and she plays her perfectly. In Civil War, you're getting that divisive film where if you were if you hated it, then you'd probably have Alex Garland going, great, that's what I wanted. If you loved it, then you'd also have Alex Garland going, great, why did you love it? And then in Alien, she now has this massive blockbuster that I think is undoubtedly gonna have a sequel. I said it before. The worldwide box office is currently at $288, $288 million worldwide. That's really impressive for a cast of actors that aren't particularly well known. Isabella Mercad is the most well known, but I wouldn't say she's ready to helm one of the biggest film franchises. And yet all of them do great. Um, Before I talk about Mercad, I'll talk about David Johnson since he's the second lead in the film. I thought again he did really well. He's not very well known. His biggest film so far was Rye Lane, which was I believe it was a comedy from about 2 years ago. Um, and from what I remember hearing about it, Rye Lane was well received. It was a good film, so good for them. But again, from Rye Lane to Alien Romulus, that's a big jump, and I think he handles it really well. Particularly in the case of David Johnson, what he struggles, or what you could have said would be a struggle, is that he's essentially playing two characters in this film. Um, and this is a spoiler, so if anyone doesn't want to hear the spoilers, cut out now. Maybe just go on a little bit further. I'll try and provide timestamps for when I I move past this. But you know the first half of the first, say, 40 minutes of the film, and then in the last half an hour or so of the film is the Andy that Spenny's character Rain has grown to love. Um, it's an android, but it is also very much a family member to her. So it's her last family member. Um, but then in that middle section of the film, he becomes this cold android that we have known in Alien and Aliens. Um, and I think he plays it really effectively. Um, when he is in that space of being this cold, like, science officer android, um, he plays the character super withdrawn from Rain, and what that allows Kaylee Spenny to do is that she doesn't understand why he's doing the things that he's doing, why he's not trying to help humans in this sort of emotional way. He's helping them in this rational way, um, and that allows Kaylee Spenny to, sort of exert her emotions in this thing, in this sort of way of like, I don't get why you're like this, and whereas in the first half of the film, or in the first like 40 minutes, it's very like lovey dovey, like, oh, we're all family, everything's fine. Once you introduce that threat of an android who is withdrawn, you don't know what he's gonna do. He doesn't have any sort of relation to Rain anymore, um, and so I feel like that deepens the film in the sense of it's not just a brother and a sister fighting against this alien. It's a brother and a sister who have been torn apart by technology and who are also fighting an alien. And I think that that is a really interesting way of deepening this film on a level. Um, Obviously, in Alien and Aliens, Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley has her own issues with the androids, and I feel like that also just continues this, um, continues that sort of tradition of not trusting the synthetic humans, um, and so I really like their dynamic. Um, the rest of the cast as well, I think is pretty good. They don't get a ton of screen time, which is understandable. This is a horror movie. You kind of know what the characters are there for, so without spoiling it too much, you're not overly surprised when they don't get a ton of screen time. But despite that, I was still impressed by them. I don't really have much to say about Isabella McKed, and then I think the names were Eileen Wu and I don't remember the other guy's name, but they were all pretty good, but they just don't have that much to do. McKed's main, like, her main purpose in the film is to provide an emotional beat for Archie Renault, and she is very good um, in what she does. She's just not in the film very much, so I don't have much to say about her. Archie Renault, I thought, was a very good supporting actor. He hasn't been in a lot of stuff that is, very highly rated. He was in that film Upgraded with Camila Mendes from Riverdale, which is, kind of like whatever streaming service slop sort of thing. He was in that movie Morbius, which, is not highly rated. Maybe the thing that he's been in that was probably the most highly rated is that Netflix show Shadow and Bone with Ben Barnes. So it's not all bad. The thing that I have seen him in that I can speak to is this BBC One show, The Jetty, that he starred in with Olivia Colman, and I really wasn't impressed with him whatsoever in that TV show. Again, he didn't have a lot to do, but the dialogue wasn't great, and he didn't really play it very great either. Um, so when I seen him in this film, I was like, oh, that's very interesting that he's here. I wouldn't have thought he was in this film. And then he has one scene in particular where I was like, wow, he's really selling this. And so I was pleasantly surprised that he was good and that he was believable. And would hope that this is the level that he's on more, rather than going back to you know, fucking upgraded with Camila Mendes, like whatever that is. That doesn't sound very good. I've got no intention of watching that, to be honest. Um, I think overall, again, like the script for what it is, this script is not a bad script. I don't mind the script whatsoever. And as the film goes on, I think the ending particularly, I really like what the script does with the plot, but it really just does not give the characters very much to do in terms of dialogue. I think it 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 really just relies on the actors to sell the lines that they do have. It relies on them to, when they're not saying anything, to at least emote on their appearance. Um, and again, their chemistry off screen must be really strong, because on screen they do come across like they really like each other, or in the case of one actor, they come across as if they really hate them. Um, so I really like this cast. I think they're all pretty good, and I wouldn't be averse to seeing any of them in the future, to be honest. Um, I think other than that, one thing that I would highlight as well is that I think the cinematography is really, really well done. Fede Alvarez's work here with the camera is very, very good. Um, the ability to separate a lot of these characters for a 2 hour movie across what they tell you is a very big station, to the point where they've cut it in half. This station, it's cut into the Romulus section and it's cut into the Remus section, um, and they still make it feel like you're constantly next to the alien or you're next to the facehugger, is very, very well done. And that's because the camera is so close to the characters for the majority of the time. Um, and I think that was really impressive. Um, so I was pretty happy with that aspect. Um, I think I think it's probably necessary that I talk about the ending, purely because I think it's gonna be so divisive. So, for context, I haven't seen Alien, or I haven't seen Prometheus, and I haven't seen Alien Covenant. I am planning on watching them. I just haven't got to it yet. Um, but and so obviously spoilers for everything that I'm about to talk about. Um, I if someone was to tell me that they hated the ending because like it was unnecessary, it's not Alvarez's universe, so why is he introducing that aspect? Um, it's just maybe you just think it's gross. I don't know. I would probably understand it, but the difference is that for me, in Alien, you get two creatures. You get the facehugger and then you get the xenomorph. In Aliens, you get what is essentially like the alien mother sort of thing. And then in Prometheus, you get the engineers in, and so every film that has some sort of respect in this universe, they are like iterating on these characters. They're not just stopping and going, no, we have the xenomorph, we have the face hugger, that's it. So I could understand it if this was the first alien or the first creature that had been introduced since the first film, but given that they're constantly iterating on it, I don't really mind it. And I think when it does appear on screen, it's very much like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's it it is quite alarming because you're like, I don't know what this thing is able to do. Can it die? Is it immortal? Is this just going to be a new species? I think it gives a lot of room for Alvarez's possible sequel, his possible trilogy, even maybe. Um, so I don't hate the introduction of this character. I think it's unnecessary that they killed off Isabella Mercad's character. I think they did that purely because it's like, well, this is a horror movie, and the only characters that we can have are left at the end is the leads. Um, so I think that was my main issue with that. Maybe I have a bit of an issue with the fact that she ejected the alien and then she put them into cryo. But again, they did that in Aliens as well. So it's not really, it's not, I can't say it's copying Alien if Aliens copied Alien as well. It wouldn't be fair for me to judge this film considering the sequel did it first. If you think that Romulus should be criticised for that, then why wouldn't you criticise Aliens for that? Um, but yeah, I don't majorly have any criticisms of this film. Maybe I think it probably could have been a touch shorter. I don't think it needs to be as long as it does, which is just an issue with the majority of films now. But it's only 2 hours. It's not egregiously long. If anything, I thought Aliens is way too long, and that could be the one that's cut down by about 25-30 minutes. Um, Whereas this probably just needs to have 10-15 minutes that doesn't really need to be there. But it's fine overall for me. Um, so next, I think I'm gonna do the box office because I think the numbers are really impressive, and I think it wouldn't be fair to talk about this film when it's been out for 3 weeks without not discussing the box office. Um, so I think it's right to judge the film on that aspect next. Um, so the worldwide gross for the film is $288 million. It's probably going to reach 300 million just based on the fact that it's already achieved that in 3 weeks. If the film was there for another 2 weeks, then it'll surely smash the 300 million mark. Um, it made 90, I believe it was 91 million so far in the US, and it's made 93 million in China, which really is a surprise given you would think that the majority of the fan base is in the US and that they're going to be the one who go, oh, I've seen it once, I'm going to go see it again. So maybe that speaks partly to this film isn't translating as well, but also, you know, I'm not really sure the studio will care. It's still doing very well. It's doing very well pretty much across the board. Um, and when you consider that the movie on its domestic opening, so that's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it opened with 42 million. That's very strong for a film that had an $80 million budget. It essentially recouped half of its budget in one weekend in just the US. Um, and then if you add into that the movie was meant to be going straight to streaming, and instead it opened to that sort of domestic gross revenue, that is ridiculous, and that is really really strong for this film. Um, on top of that, if we're removing the budget, if we're factoring the budget into the worldwide gross, then that means that the film has already hit 200 million in revenue as well. That is very impressive. I believe it's one of the strongest. I believe it's one of the strongest box offices for the Alien franchise overall. So it seems it seems undoubtable to me that there will be a follow up to this. Fede Alvarez has said that he has ideas for a sequel, but he doesn't want to rush straight into that. Although I imagine when he gets paid 10 million by the studio to do it, he will probably rush into it. Which is it's a bit disappointing if you like the Don't Breathe franchise, which I do. I think the Don't Breathe franchise has got a lot of room uh, for improvement, but it also has a lot of improvement. It has a lot of room to sort of build on that franchise. I think it's very good. I think Stephen Lang is very good as that character. That sort of him almost existing in this anthology sort of thing where every movie he's in and you see he's got a new cast of characters around him. I think that's very interesting. So it's possibly a disappointment, but also if you're going to give 100 million to Fede Alvarez to do an Alien Romulus follow up, then I'm not majorly disappointed. I think what I would want to see out of this next film, if he's given a bigger budget and he's just given like free reign, is that I don't want to see a copycat of Aliens. You get away with it with Alien Romulus because you're essentially restarting the franchise, but in the second film that you do in your new trilogy, if you want to think of it that way, it has to be differentiating. It can't be Aliens. It needs to be something new. So if he just comes back and it's oh, we've got the colonial marines, we're gonna send them to a planet where a ship is a station has stopped responding, and then she's a badass with a gun again. Then it's like, okay, well, like this isn't very interesting, but I would hope that it's not going to be that. Um, they surely have a number of directions that they can take this in. Given that Alvarez is a fan of the franchise, I wouldn't expect him to just copy it again. I would hope that he has more respect for it, given his use of prosthetics and his use of given his use of practical effects. I would imagine that he has enough ideas in the tank that if he's going to do an Alien follow up, he's going to do it properly, and he's not just going to continue to rip off the franchise because that doesn't treat this franchise with respect in my eyes. Um, so I think it's only right that we finish with discussing the use of Ian Holmes' likeness through AI and CGI. Um, to give a bit of background on this, in the original film, Ian Holm plays the android or synthetic human, whatever you prefer, Ash, who eventually betrays Ripley in the final sort of half an hour of the film, because he believes he has to do what's best for the company, not what's best for the crew of the Nostromo. Um, in this film, Fede Alvarez, and Ridley Scott believed that they should use Ian Holmes' character to as the face of the android that is native to the Romulus, who convinces David Johnson's character Andy to turn against the crew. The in an interview with Empire magazine, Fede Alvarez says that before they did anything, they cleared everything that in terms of using Ian Holmes' identity with his estate. So that's all of his family, his agents, everyone. Um, and apparently, according to Alvarez, Ian Holmes' wife believed that he would want to be involved in this film in this way. So in a sense, there's not really any argument that anyone can make that you know oh well it's wrong because we shouldn't use it. At the end of the day, he's dead, so it has to be up to his wife and his kids more than anyone else. We can't say that it shouldn't be used. We may not like that it's being used, but to say that oh well Ian Holmes shouldn't be included in the film, that's not our decision to make. We can say AI shouldn't be used in the making of the film in general, and that is what I will say is that it detracts from any scene that the character Rook is in because it doesn't look good. It looks really distracting. The mouth just does not move correctly. You can tell that the mouth has been digitally moved after the fact. After they've built the prosthetic and then they've added Ian Holmes' face to it, you can tell that after all that they've then began to move the mouth with the use of AI, or with the with CGI, and then they've digitally made it sound more like Ian Holm with the use of AI. It just doesn't look good more than anything else, and it really detracts from the rest of the scene. So I don't really understand why you would include it other than, oh well, fans of the Aliens franchise will know who this is. Well, yeah, we might, but do you not think it just makes your film look a bit more shitty? Because like, why are you including that? And so it was a bit disappointing that that was there, but I don't think there's anything. I don't think this is a grave case of like AI mischief, or injustice. And as Fede Alvarez says in his interview with Empire, he doesn't believe that this sort of technology is going to take jobs because he still had to hire people behind the scenes to build the prosthetic, to use CGI, and then to use AI, and then he had to find another voice actor who sounded like Ian Holm to voice the lines in the first place. So it cost way more than just hiring an actor anyways for the role. It seems like he essentially did it because he thought it was a good idea to include an android that resembled the android from the first film, which is understandable. But at the same time, again, it just doesn't look good. So if you don't know who this character is, you will not enjoy this. So I found that a bit disappointing. But overall, it's not like the Megalopolis trailer. It's not like Gladiator 2. So I don't think we should make more out of this than need be if his family don't think that this is a big deal. Um, I think that's pretty much everything that I have to say. Um, this is my first outing of this sort of doing a review in this sense. I I have done reviews in the past. I think I'm pretty good at them, but doing it on like via recording rather than writing it down is gonna mean that I have to get better at this. Um, I do want to do this with someone rather than doing this on my own, but I've written reviews alone, so I will get better at this. Again, I don't think this was terrible. I don't think this is unlistenable. Maybe you think it's unlistenable because you got to listen to me for 36 minutes, which is fair enough. I would understand that, but overall, I think this has come out pretty good. Maybe if I listen back to it, I'll think differently, but I haven't listened to it back yet, so I don't know. Um, but overall, I will take any criticism because it's going to be understandable. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you anyways. Thank you for listening.